Welcome to Plants vs. Meat, the podcast where we put the health, environment, and animal rights debates on the chopping block. Real Men Eat Plants is proud to provide time to dig deep into the meaty issues that divide us, as we pit a carnivore against a plant-baser in a no-holds-barred battle for the truth. Get ready to hear some passionate arguments, mind-blowing facts, and maybe even a few jokes, as we explore ways to save the planet, improve our health, and save some animals along the way. So, whether you're a plant-based warrior or a meat-eating machine, tune in to Plants vs. Meat and find out which side you're really on.
Welcome to Plants vs. Meat, the platform for friendly and informative debates between herbivores and carnivores that will give us both a chance to share our perspectives on our different chosen lifestyles. I am your host, Bryan, and joining us today is Jenny Powers. She is an accomplished writer, scientist, athlete who has earned her PhD in microbiology and immunology. I always trouble with that one, from the University of Colorado. Welcome to the show, Jenny.
Thank you so much. I'm really happy to be here.
I am excited to talk about, you've got a new book that just came out on the origin of being, understanding science and the science of evolution, correct?
Correct. To enhance your quality of life.
That's awesome. And so I always like to start off with like some common ground that we might have together here. And so I thought the important question that we probably have common ground on is evolution. We can all agree that humans have evolved from earlier forms of life, correct?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
So I'm glad we're on the same page there. But the format of today is really to get to know a little bit of background about you, and then we'll try and spend a few minutes and talk through the health, the planet, and the animals a little bit. So
that would be great.
Take us back in time and the precursors that led up to you writing this awesome book. So
yeah, well, I have always been kind of, a high achiever. I got a chemical engineering degree. I played basketball. I got my PhD, but I was really caught in the rat race, and my self-worth was really tied up with what I accomplished and things like that. And so, I felt a lot of shame that I was depressed, and I just couldn't feel like I could do it. And I felt like it was my fault. And I felt like, I was, just not suited for it. And so when I had my kids, I actually left academia, and it was the best decision I ever made, because I started pursuing my career in writing, and that made me feel like, oh my gosh, my whole life I've been doing things that I thought other people wanted me to do. I thought society wanted me to do. So I started writing middle grade novels, actually, for kids that are like your age kids. And
very cool.
But writing, doesn't pay the bills very much. So I was looking for something else. And I ran across Luke, who wanted to have a research assistant for a book that he was working on nutrition. And I'm like, oh, that sounds, I could do that. But when I interviewed with him, he said, oh, I just hired a nutritionist to help me with that. And I'm like, oh man, this sounded like a great opportunity. And he said, well, but I have this other idea kicking around in my head for years, and I really am interested in somebody being able to kind of take it and run with it. And so he had discovered, when he was researching his nutrition book and the evolution of nutrition, how far off we are from eating the way we evolved to live. And so he started seeing all of these other aspects of our lives, sleep and work and our relationship with nature. And this is just the first book. The next couple of books, take like child rearing and social groups and the arts and things like that. So all of these ways that we are living now, that we were in complete discord with our biology. And so he was like, are you interested in maybe researching and writing this book? And as we were talking, I was like, oh my gosh, I started to see that maybe, in many of these places that he was talking about, like, maybe it's not me. Maybe the life I was trying to have was just not in accord with my biology, with who I was. And
Yeah.
so what was really cool about this experience is because I got to use my scientific training and I got to use my passion for writing. And the book we have out now is the result of that. And and what I really liked about it too is I'm an immunologist. I studied the innate immune system. I studied macrophages, which
Hmm.
really doesn't really have anything to do with evolution or anthropology or anything like that. So when I started this book, Luke had the outline and he had this vision, but I started the book as a blank page. And
Hmm.
as I researched and studied and wrote, I learned right along with like someone who's a reader, right? If you start from the beginning and you read it, you kind of went through my journey as
Yeah.
well. And so the lifestyle changes that we propose in the book, and the reasons why, we take people on an evolutionary journey to understand why.
Hmm.
And then we spend a lot of time on our hunter-gatherer ancestors because that was a successful adaptation for a couple million years in our
Hmm.
human lineage.
Hmm.
And then by the time we get to modern humans, people are like, I think I know what's wrong. um,
Right.
so then we talk about ways to change. And so we were talking earlier, like a way that I have changed especially my diet and some of my other habits. I eat whole foods now. I'm trying to eat more plants. I'm trying to get more fiber in my diet. So there's a lot of things that
Yeah.
at first it was kind of overwhelming, all of the things that we weren't doing in accord to our biology.
Yeah.
But once you kind of start making smaller changes and you see that they feel good, then you can make bigger changes and more changes, and they kind of add up.
And it's so true because we're not as a vegan myself, I'm not expecting everybody on the planet to switch tomorrow. I certainly hope for that.
Right.
but but at the same time, like, I know everybody has to go through a process. I know I watched the movie Forks Over Knives and I just went out of the movie theater and said, look, the science and the everything's just clicked with me in that movie. And I
Hmm.
went vegan cold turkey. And
Wow.
then, 60 days later, I said, like, look, I miss the ice cream. I miss the butter. I miss those things. And so I put them back in. And then it took me another 3 or 4 years to go back through the evolution to get back to being like the true vegan now, kind of
Hmm.
a thing. So it was just that interesting shift that we all have to go through our journey of, like, I
Hmm.
think we're all spoiled with our early life metabolism. And then we get into our late 20s, early 30s or something and realize, man, I better figure out this diet thing.
This
Or
is
we
true.
figure it
Yeah.
out through exercise or whatever our journey is. So
Yeah.
um,
The lifestyle changes. And I found, I was off social media for a really long time, and I found that there is this amazing community of people who health and wellness, and
mhm.
that it's like having, going through my feed, it's like having little people on my shoulder reminding me, like,
Yes,
don't forget, this is really healthy for you.
eat more
There's
kale,
this,
right?
yeah, there's a support network that's building. I think it's really hard for people to go again. Like, everyone's on this, we're in this river, and it's
Hmm.
really fast and everyone's going downstream. And the people who kind of choose a different way of life have to swim against the tide. And there's not a lot of support. There's not a lot of options, and everyone else is still, just mindlessly,
Hmm.
swimming down the river, and they don't understand your reasoning. And so it was really helpful for me to see that online, at least, there's more and more people who are embracing this kind of lifestyle. And because I feel like the lifestyle is not going to come from the top down.
Hmm.
The status quo is going to be set there until somebody changes it, and the change is going to have to come from the grassroots movement.
And it's going to take a tremendous amount. Like, we have got to end meat subsidies. We've got to change the FDA's food plate little picture and get rid of
Right.
dairy off of there. Like, there's ingrained things over the past 200 years we've been building up, and at least in America. So I
Yeah.
hope we can figure out ways to unlock that and stuff. I guess, if we spend a couple more minutes on the health sides of it, which is really what I feel like a good portion of your book is probably
Hmm.
focused on to a degree. And you said other books coming out, like, because I'm curious about, like, grounding and walking barefoot and just getting back in touch with the earth, or the whole fungi world is fascinating to me with the
Oh, yeah.
mycelium networks and stuff. Like, there's just so much stuff we don't know, and I hope you get to write more books to help us put this all together to a
Oh,
degree.
Thanks.
But your expertise in immunology and just diet and stuff like that, like I know, like as an example, like I am a vegan and I go out to restaurants and I say, hey, I'm vegan, what do you have for me? And they come back with spinach and pasta,
Mhm.
and I'm allergic to spinach. Like I know
Oh
that. I
man.
figured it out. So like, I can't really eat spinach. It's not a friend of mine, and that's the default play for meat restaurants that want to serve you up something as well. We've got some spinach.
Yeah, have a
Or every
salad.
salad I ask for has spinach hiding in it. So like that's just one of my personal things because it's genetic in me. Like I just
Right.
know that tapioca and spinach are not
Mm.
my friends, and those are the two things that the alternatives use on a regular basis. So it makes me even in tough. So I'm just curious, like how that evolution has played into a healthy immune system, and how you see like plant diets versus animal diets compare
Yeah.
with some of your research.
Yeah. Well, the truth is that during our evolution, during the human lineage, we were omnivores. Um,
Hmm.
and the human lineage progressed and our brains got bigger and bigger, which is the hallmark of human beings, our
Hmm.
intelligence and our creativity, our brains got bigger. We had to find different ways to feed that brain.
Hmm.
And so evolutionarily, if we go back to our primate ancestors, the common ancestor that we had with chimpanzees and bonobos, they were omnivores, but they ate mostly plants. And so as we evolved, we started putting more and more animal proteins in there because animal proteins, or animal meat and the things that animals provided us had less, they were easier to digest and things like that. And so we needed to feed our brains with the food that had the most energy dense food. But we always ate our food whole, right?
Right.
We never just ate the muscle meat. We never just ate, the pulp. We ate of the plants, we ate the entire plant. We ate the entire animal. Um, and so, but at the same time, what's really cool is if you look at studies done on the hunter-gatherer groups that survived into modern day, they were pushed to the fringes because nobody wanted that land.
Hmm.
Um, and so there's this complete, opposite. People who lived in the Arctic, the Inuit, ate 95% meat,
Hmm.
95% animal products, and 5% plants. And yet those who lived in like the Kalahari Desert, they ate maybe 75% plants and
Hmm.
or more and less and a lot less animal products, and not
Yeah.
necessarily animal products like mammals. They ate a lot more like bugs and just whatever. During our evolution, we had to eat whatever the environment provided us.
Yes.
So depending on where we lived, and if we lived in the Arctic, we lived in the desert. Before agriculture came along, we lived everywhere in between too.
Hmm.
And so
And we ate
we
the food source there.
we
Exactly.
ate
Yeah.
the food sources that we had that were there in season. But we always ate the whole food. So there really isn't one paleo diet.
Right.
And I think what's important for people to know is there's lots of different ways people can eat. And now that we are conscious, we're more environmentally conscious, we can make conscious decisions, and we can make moral decisions, and we can make health decisions based on what makes us feel the best and what is best for the environment. So
Eh,
that's what I love. We're adaptable. That's what I love.
Yes.
We have all this adaptability. We can be omnivores, vegans. We can, as people who are carnivores, but we have to take into consideration a lot of different factors now. It's not just about
Totally.
what can we eat.
And it's interesting because I know like the book is on the origin of being, understanding the science of evolution, and it's the thing that I like to point out to people when I get into this debate is that our ancestors ate a tremendous amount of bugs and insects and that kind of stuff
Mhm.
because those are pretty easy to catch and eat, and they're a good
Right.
source of protein. When it comes to the meat side of it, I don't think we ate meat until we created fire,
Mhm.
because you need to cook the meat to kill the bacteria and everything else. I have
All right, if you've ever wanted to show off your plant-based lifestyle and do it in style, here's your chance. We have some of the most amazing t-shirts, hats, accessories, coffee mugs, and more at shop.realmeneatplants.com. We have statement t-shirts that will bring a smile to everyone's face. I love the I want tofu tonight tee. Plus, we have podcast tees, Real Women Eat Plants gear, Real Kids Eat Plants, and Real People Eat Plants, just in case men, women, and kids didn't cover it all. Yeah, we love you and love that you want to show off that healthy lifestyle of yours. Again, check out our high-quality gear at shop.realmeneatplants.com and enjoy.
I have a copy of the book. I've not had a chance to read it yet. So I'm just curious, like, did your book touch on the fact that you have to cook the food? Like the Arctic one obviously is eating 95% meat, but they had fire to cook it, to kill it. Like, we say we're carnivore oriented, but we're not. Carnivores have completely different acidic structures in their bodies to digest raw meat. We cannot do that unless we cook it. And I think that's a really important thing to point out in some fashion or another, that we need to process that food in some fashion so we don't die by eating it.
Exactly. So the other thing, as we evolved, our nutrition evolved with us, and we figured out ways to process food. And when we were, Homo erectus is the first human lineage that figured out how to use fire. And what's amazing about fire is that it processes food to the point where it makes it so much easier to digest. You know, not just meat, but potatoes, and like there are a lot of plant foods that we need to cook in order to deactivate toxins, in order to make the nutrients bioavailable to us. And once we started, and don't forget, cooking makes things so much easier to chew.
Yes.
And we, primates these days, modern primates spend so much time chewing. And humans, we're like, we don't have time to chew. Like we have, we need to find things.
I need a smoothie. That's right.
We need to process things so we can get their nutrients from them as quickly as possible. And then, we are social. We needed to interact. We needed to teach each other. There's so many other things that humans need to do as our brains evolved. And so a lot of the processing techniques like cooking became very, very important. So you're completely right.
Yeah.
But what's interesting is, as our brains evolved and as we're trying to get more and more energy dense food that's palatable and easy to digest and absorbs quickly, it's almost like we took it too far once we had the agricultural revolution, especially the industrial revolution, because never in the history of any animal's evolution did we eat pure sugar, did we eat pure, refined oils. We never ate food in the absence of how it came to us from nature. And so while sugar is palatable and it's easy to chew, it's easy to digest, it gets into our bloodstream, unfortunately, way too quickly for people who are diabetic and things like that. But we weren't ever, our processing became ultra processing. And that, we went very far away from our evolutionary roots when we started eating ultra processed food.
I agree completely, but it's a great segue into like this next little section that I want to talk about, which is the animals, right? The ethical side of this to a degree, because like if I say, when I try and tell people, like, think about the ethical side of this to a degree, like many people have their heads buried in the sand that we have a tremendous amount more animals on this planet that we kill and eat than nature left in the planet. But like I say to you, picture a farm with cows and chickens, and you think of a beautiful, picturesque Charlotte's Web type video of green grass, sunshine, all that kind of stuff. But then when I say, industrial farming, like people either don't know what that really looks like, or they don't understand that you maybe don't have any sunshine involved in that animal's life, or that you only get a 1x1 square of space to walk around in. And then we hope that they're slaughtered quickly and painlessly as we possibly can, but really start to unpack that for people. Did you touch on that in the book at all, or how we've industrialized that? And, let me know your thoughts or the book's perspective on that.
Well, one thing that I learned is, hunter-gatherers weren't tree huggers. Like, they didn't have a concept of, let's
Plants
save
versus
nature.
Meat, right? Yeah.
Yeah, they didn't have let's save nature, because they were nature. They they considered themselves, our ancestors considered themselves an integral part of nature. We weren't above it, we were inside of it. And the respect and the sustainability practices that they exercised um we're so integrated into their lives. So they their religion systems, you know they all the animals had spirits, and all the rocks, all the plants, all the trees had spirits, and so they had this reverence for what they would take from the environment. And they would celebrate and celebrate the animal that gave their life to them. They would celebrate the food that they grew, or were able to harvest. And so I feel like that's one thing that we've completely lost. We don't have a connection with nature. We don't have any connection to the way our food is made, except for people who garden and maybe farmers themselves. They have no idea what goes into it. And because of that, they don't understand, just like you said, the moral, the compassionate sides of what we need to do to grow our food. So hearing people say, well, we're not part of nature, we're so intricately part of nature that people don't realize what we're doing to the environment. Now we're actually doing to ourselves. I'm sure you've heard about all that stuff.
Yeah.
And now that we know that, our human population, the way that we're feeding our human population is unsustainable. So we have this information, we are intelligent, we can make choices to stop that from happening. Let's find a way to live more sustainably. And I am definitely of the camp of eating less meat is more sustainable. If people ate a third less meat, it would be incredible how much land is opened up to either return to forests, and you could stop cutting down
we're destroying
forests.
the lungs of this planet in the Amazon just to raise more cattle so we can have our steaks. So we have got to stop that, in my mind, in a big way. But like, if we stay focused on the ethical side of the animal pieces of this, is like, maybe we can't convert everybody to eating whole food plant-based 100%, but we maybe can at least end the suffering by growing lab-grown meat, perhaps, or something like that. Or at least, I don't think that's sustainable personally in the long run, but like, if we can at least say, look, you can get your steak once a month to get your fix, but it's at least lab-grown. Maybe have we removed the ethical pieces of that? I don't know. It's a struggle for sure.
If we take away the land that is used to feed the animals, so we have fewer animals, so we need less food to feed them. There's more land for them to maybe be roaming freer.
Yes.
I mean, I don't know all the logistics
or let
of
the
that.
Buffalo come back, or whatever else we need to do.
Yeah. I mean, we talk about in the book the difference between industrial raised meat and wild meat, and how much better wild meat is for you because of the way we evolved eating animals from nature. We didn't, and so their body composition, the composition of their fat, all of those things are changed when you do an industrial slaughterhouse, or industrial, cattle farming. The fundamental basis of the nutrition that they give us is changed. So, less meat, more free range meat, where the animals have a lovely life roaming around eating the food that they would eat naturally. So then when we eat them, we get the food that we would have eaten naturally when we were evolving.
Yeah. I hope we can end all of that personally, because I don't think, as a smart, our next evolution should be to just helping reduce the suffering and cruelty on the planet. But yeah, I agree. I want to key back on the environmental side of it. Like you said, we've lost our connection to nature. And I agree, because I think many of us are sitting in our houses with our filtered air and our air conditioning and stuff so we have got to get back to that nature piece of it, and the environment is another big thing. I think we're aligned on the fact that humans have had a significant impact on the climate of this planet.
Oh, yeah.
We, like you said, I think we're now above being connected to nature, and we're controlling nature. Like, we're creating new islands, we're creating land, we're destroying
Right.
huge ecosystems.
hmm
How does your book touch on the environmental impact, and like, does it have any recommendations on how we can take quicker and faster steps to save our planet?
Well, I think one of the main points of the book is that people who aren't connected with nature don't care if we save it or not. So, and some people are like, well, I live in the city, I can't connect with nature, or, but I feel like that's really short-sighted. People have this view of nature, the National Geographic nature programs, like I have to go to this amazing, the Grand Canyon or Yellowstone or things like that to connect with nature. And our hunter-gatherers didn't travel to be in nature. They knew they were connected to the nature that was right surrounding them. So if you live in the city, the nature that's surrounding you are the birds, are the trees, are the plants, even man-made like gardens or flower pots, or that's the nature you're surrounded with. So connect with that nature first. Because look up, look at the clouds, walk around the park on your lunch break. You're not going to make a connection with nature if you only connect with nature once a year when you're on vacation at Yellowstone.
That's right.
Those situations are good because nature provides so much awe, and so those types of trips are important as well, because you have this sense of awe, and the feeling of awe will also make you care more about trying to preserve what we have. I
agree. Like, even if I have a hydroponic garden in my house, and every now and then it gets a bug infestation, and it's like, how did they get in here, and how do I cure this? And over the past few years, I've restructured my whole backyard to be it's got thousands of flowers in it now, and the butterflies that come in every year now, and just going outside and looking at it. And the aphids, like North Carolina has the aphid, like the 17-year aphid brood or something has hatched.
Boy.
And the aphids make such noise, you can hear them inside the house. But yeah, I do hope we can, if we connect with the nature, even just in our own local environment, we can try to help realize we've got to make a bigger play faster, quicker, to help save some of the things that are.
Yeah, I think gardening is so important for people to start doing, because gardening helps you. Well, you're in the earth, you're in the dirt, you're grounding, like you said, but also you see what it takes to grow food. You have fresh organic food. And I see more and more communities who have like community gardens and permaculture and things like that. I feel that's the way to go. Get involved in your own food making. Then also share your food. Get your community involved, because that is something we talk about in the next book that has completely fallen off our radars, is how important community and social interactions are for our well-being. So we can't just be in our little
that
boxes.
Wants tomatoes or cucumbers, I have got a million of them right now. So you are welcome to stop by my house, and I am giving them away in buckets full. So
yeah. So it's fun to, to think about. Well, if I grow all this food, I can share it with, and I can just give it to people. I don't need money for it. People are like, oh, healthy food is so expensive. Well, not if you find someone who's giving it away, or growing it yourself, or there are all kinds of ways to both, and it's eating more plants, like you're going to eat the plants that you make, that you grow, and you're going to respect and have pride in what you created. Like, I made this,
That's right.
And so it'll help you eat healthier in the long run. And there's just so many really important things that could go into learning how to garden.
This has been awesome, Jenny. I got one other bigger, future looking question, and it sounds to me like you're very much on your way to joining us on the vegan side of this. So let me know how I can help you as you write the second and the third book. Maybe we can convince you. But given your scientific background, how are you envisioning like the future of food production and trying to balance like everything that we talked about, the human health, the environmental sustainability, and some of the ethical pieces of it? What's your hope for the future there?
Well, I think scientifically, there are more and more studies coming out. People are focusing on the health benefits of all of the things we've been talking about. And so if the researchers start, then we have to start, the research needs to start moving into our healthcare system. The way we train doctors needs to change in terms of functional health, a holistic health. Because I think
Nutritional training.
yeah, because doctors keep people dying longer now.
Mhm.
We still have the same life expectancy, but the last 15, 20 years of our lives we're ill. We are overweight, obese, we
Mhm.
have diabetes, heart disease, all kinds of things. So I really feel like scientifically, that's where we need to start, is to realize, all of these studies are being done about the benefits of whole foods, about the benefits of nature, about the benefits of less stress in your life, the
Mhm.
benefits of getting really good quality sleep and having your circadian rhythms in line. That needs to trickle into our medical field. And then because that is a place where we can start helping people learn how to change their lives. So I feel like, again, it's a bottom up kind of problem, but it's also
Yeah.
a top down problem. We need to meet in the middle. But I am encouraged by all the scientific studies coming out about all of these different things, because it just serves to, put an exclamation point on it. Like, this isn't just because, if someone who might not want to give up meat because of ethical reasons, if it's going to help them live longer, well, then they'll do it, right? So
Yeah, that's right.
there's lots of things.
You have
Different
two
people
choices.
are motivated. Yeah.
Eat more plants, or I'll be cutting your chest open in 30 years to do a bypass. So
Right.
yeah.
So people have a choice, and people just need to wake up a little bit and see what's going on, and make better choices for themselves. And if they make better choices for themselves, it will trickle down and make better choices for the environment.
Yeah. Thank you, Jenny, for being on the show. How do people get in touch? Where can they find the book?
Sure.
And
Yeah.
hit us with all those details one more
Yeah,
time.
it's been so much fun talking to you. So we have a website, www.ontheoriginofbeing.com. There you can see we have some videos and our bios and excerpts from the book, and a place to buy it. It's any online retailer will sell it, Amazon, Barnes and Noble, those kinds of things. I've just recently started doing social media, so we're still gaining some momentum. I'd love people to follow us. I do most of my interaction on Instagram. It's at On the Origin of Being. So those are the two main places that people can find us.
That is awesome. We'll make sure we put those links in the show notes for people, and don't forget to try and support your local bookseller that's probably right next to the community garden.
Yes.
On that front, and I'm sure you can get a copy of Jenny's book there as well.
Yes, we do have it in several independent bookstores. So
and I'm sure they can order it either way for
they
you.
can.
So
Yes,
that's right. Well, that is all the time we have for this episode of the Plants vs. Meat podcast. Thanks again, Jenny, for joining us, sharing your insights and experiences with our community. The best way you can support our show is to click that subscribe button down below. Tell some friends and family about that, and let us know if you know somebody that wants to be our next guest on here to help have a friendly debate and try and unpack this a little bit more. Until next time, everybody, we'll see you soon.
And that's a wrap for this episode of Plants vs. Meat. We hope you enjoyed the debate and gained some new insights into the complex world of food choices. Remember, whether you choose plants or meat, the most important thing is to make informed decisions that work for you and the planet. Don't forget to tune in next time for more food for thought and more heated debates. Thanks for listening to Plants vs. Meat, brought to you by Real Men Eat Plants. Head over to Apple Podcast and give us a review, and let us know what you think about this episode. Don't forget to tag us at Plant vs. Meat Podcast when you share this episode in your preferred social media. Do you think you have a good argument about eating meat? Be our guest and email us at pvm@realmeneatplants.com. We love hearing from our listeners. Thank you to our guests and to you, our listeners, for your support, and see you next time.